Adesanya, Paulo Costa, few moving parts here. Okay, the first round was tough for me to interpret. I'm trusting you guys have seen the fight. Allow me to condescend for our viewers who haven't. There was about 20 leg kicks landed by Adesanya to Paulo Costa on the same leg, all within the first round. I mean, he was really attacking that leg. Paulo Costa was heckling Izzy, talking to him, slapping his leg to say, do it again, that doesn't hurt. I halfway trust him. That big, strong leg probably could take a few of those strikes. Adesanya was not only scoring points with the judges, he was doing that also to control range. That's what a lot of that front leg teep is. John Jones kind of introduced that to the sport. Adesanya's ran with it. You'll see Alistair Overeem do it. But that's also to control range, not just to do damage and not just to distract, but it can do multiple things at once. And once Adesanya establishes that range, boom, now he starts chopping. That one's to do damage. Once he starts chopping, now it's also created a distraction. Boom, he starts coming in with the jab. Paulo Costa continued to talk, to heckle, to place his hands behind his back. Look, the hands behind your back when Conor McGregor did it, but he was out there whipping Eddie's ass when he did it, was a cool thing. To put your hands behind your back when you haven't got off a level of offense yet was a little bit confusing, but let me explain to you what was happening. Paulo Costa very clearly came in, understanding I've got to get inside and he's got to keep me outside. Here's how I'm going to get inside. I'm going to slip and step in. I'm going to take a punch and step in, or I'm going to back him into the fence where he can't go anywhere, and now I'm already in. None of those three things happened. He never got Adesanya to do what we call over-commit. I realize where there's a redundancy in the vocabulary I'm using, but I also think that you understand what I mean, where we'll see an athlete go for the big knockout, but he overcommits and now he's exposed. Now all of a sudden his defenses are down, or it takes him longer to get back to form. Boom, boom. That's where your shots come in. It was very clear that's what Paulo Costa was looking for, and the champion was too damn disciplined to do it. Compliment to Izzy. Bad news for Paulo, he had no plan B. Okay, you've got to brawl a boxer. You got to box a brawler. So if Paulo came into this fight at all thinking that he had skill for skill and move for move, the level of rhythm and athleticism, while openly conceding that he's given up a height and reach advantage against a guy who is 29-3 in professional kickboxing, that would be a sucker's move, and I don't believe Paulo's a sucker. I just believe that he thought he was either going to be able to slip, absorb the shot, or walk him down, and he had no plan B. He never feinted a takedown. He never rushed a clinch. He never jumped in with the knee. He just never got going. Before you think he took the night off, I'm suggesting for you two things, and they're compliments to Adesanya, not insults to Paulo. First off, Adesanya understood range. You'll hear that term a lot, and it's annoying. It's annoying because it's lazy, and people generally don't know what they're talking about when they do use it. But a few guys have understood range. In the history of this sport, you could put Anderson Silva, you could put Izzy in there, you could put John Jones, then you got to go all the way back to the 80s and bring in Thomas Hitman Hearns. Not very many guys with a longer arm win the fight. They call it an advantage, but history has shown us it's a disadvantage. George Foreman didn't have longer arms. Muhammad Ali had a pretty good wingspan, in all fairness. Floyd Mayweather doesn't always have longer arms, and Mike Tyson never had the longer arms. But when you have an athlete who understands range, understands how to keep you at the end of his punches and at the end of the kick, keep that distance so you can simply never get to him, it's a very rare thing. It's a very skilled athlete, but you're talking about the champion of the world in Izzy Adesanya. Now, as much as I just enlightened you, and you can't get that level of analysis anywhere, as much as I've just impressed you, I'm likely to confuse you. I will tell you the two hardest fights for Izzy Adesanya right now. Chris Weidman and Tyron Woodley. Now, as you're staring at this board and thinking, Chael, I'm not going to click off of this right now because I got to hear how you're possibly going to make that argument. Weidman has always been a matchup issue. Weidman's a guy that just knows how to come forward, slip, and he can get you down. Adesanya, earlier in his career, showed some trouble with that. I fully admit he has not shown it recently. You could go all the way back to the Gastelum fight where he was down twice, scrambled to his feet both times, and one time even threw up a triangle attempt. But you could go back to the Marvin Vettor fight just by example, and you could see where that was a problem that Chris Weidman would also present. Weidman's going to get a hold of Izzy, and he's going to drag him down. What happens after that is between those boys. But matchup problem, Weidman's a problem, and so is T. Wood. And as silly as that would may sound, And I understand that's probably pretty far out there. But while you're telling me that neither one of them is going to get the chance, you're also then going to hedge your bet that Jared Cannonier is. I would agree with you. Cannonier is going to get that fight. We are in contender season for the middleweights right now. That's what happens when you find the two baddest dudes in the world who, by the way, both happen to be undefeated. Everybody else in the division, and there's some great fighters. There, Jack the Joker, Chris Weidman himself, Kelvin Gastelum comes to mind, Darren Till, all stood back, Robert Whitaker, I all stood back, said, boys, go figure this out. We'll come in next, but this dance is yours. But when that happens and you have somebody that looked as scary as Adesanya, and Adesanya, who always lines up his job, before he leaves one job site, he lines up tomorrow's work, calls out Cannonier. When you have that and you know that's going to be the fight, I'm only sharing for you because this has to be hypothetical. Adesanya is looking so good and so impressive. You have to begin to guess. What can he do next and can anybody beat him? I would offer for you that there are two guys that would give him big problems. Tyron Woodley, who needs to become a middleweight, and Chris Weidman, who's already at middleweight. And I fully admit to you, those guys are not likely to get the chance. I'm just telling you who would give him the most problems. One constant that we have seen with Adesanya, okay, is he is growing between fights. You will take many great athletes. The Dennis Rodmans of the world come to mind. In fairness, the John Joneses of the world come to mind, who reach a level of success, a level of fame that also comes with a level of money, and it is a downfall like the world has never seen. It is almost unfair. And society is very unforgiving of them because it seemed like you had everything. Well, yeah, they did have everything. Nobody in life can be happy with how to struggle. When things come easy, guys get unhappy and they turn to substances. It's a very real thing. When you have somebody like Adesanya who did all of those same things, but is getting better between fights, what you are now seeing is a young man who's reading what they're saying about him, but he's not believing it. What you're seeing is a young man who is going to the gym, continuing to listen to the same coach, with the same teammates, driven towards a goal. Now, Adesanya's goals are a little more lofty than most. It wasn't to be the world champion. It was to go out as the greatest to have ever done it. And to do that, he must separate himself from the pack. But when you watch Adesanya, and the only thing you can come to a conclusion of is, my goodness, this guy's getting better. Henry Cejudo did it. To offer you another example, each time you saw Henry, figure, okay, I know who can beat him. I see him. There's a great talent, but I know who can beat him. Matter of fact, it's this guy here. Put them in there and we'll have the end of Cejudo. Cejudo got better. Cejudo stayed hungry. Cejudo stayed curious. Cejudo continued to work. I can't give you a lot of examples like that. Generally, you get to the top of the mountain, you think, well, let's see how long I can be here. I've already made it. There's nowhere else to go. Eventually, somebody's going to get me whenever that day comes, but I'll rest on my laurels. That's very great goals if you have them. Just offering for you what you've seen with Adesanya is something different. He's playing a different game. He's playing a different game right now, and he's playing it at a different level. And I got to tell you, by the way, and this comes from the spirit of my evil side, because I don't really care for John Jones. But to see John Jones vacate a title to go after the winner of Ngannou versus Stipe when so clearly the bigger fight would be Izzy versus Jones. To watch Jones misstep his entire career and then even on accident misstep this one, it brought me an evil pleasure.